And now to the Culture Interview of the Week, where it is our privilege to introduce you to the man who interprets and makes intelligible our own cultural subtexts to us all. Psychoanalyst and one of the sharpest intellects in the country, Sudhir Kakar. He is the Sutradhar of our collective selves. He holds a mirror to our minds. He tells us our stories. He reveals us to ourselves. It's a pleasure and a privilege to have author, commentator and psychoanalyst Sudhir Kakar on center stage today. Sudhir, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Just a couple of questions to help us put ourselves in perspective as Indians, as a culture, as a people. Tell me, why do Indians find it so difficult to say no or to say yes directly? Why are we always so convoluted or circuitous in our approach?
The Indians themselves wouldn't look at it as convolution or circuitous. For them, it is very important. Courtesy, politeness means that to say no is not a courteous thing.
So we're dishonest when we're not saying no when we really want to.
Let's say we are kind of skirting on honesty, but we are being very, very polite and courteous. We want to, because we also always feel that, and we are very right psychologically, that people are narcissistic. They want to hear what they want to hear, and if we can somehow help their narcissism along, make them feel better about themselves, then it's a good relationship.
Okay, tell me about orchestrated humility. The inability to say yes when you really want to say yes. Why say 1,000 times, why say no a couple of thousand times before you graduate to saying yes?
I think it's, well, I mean, people would say it is a very long civilizational thing. Now, when do you say no? You say no first when you are offered something to eat, when you go away. So it is very, very courteous to that no, what you have given to me is already enough. I am full up. You have cooked so wonderfully. So that no is really a message to the other person saying you have done so much wonders for me. My stomach is absolutely full. I am completely satiated, although I still might be hungry. Till you admit that maybe your hospitality had just a small little flaw, you could give me a little more.
So I was speaking the other day to Pandit Ravi Shankar's wife. She comes from the south. And she told me a charming little anecdote about how when guests would come to the house, she would ask them to whether they wanted something to eat or drink. And they'd say no. She should turn on her heel and walk right back into the house. And Panditji apparently joined issue with her and says, but you don't ask them enough. She said, but I asked them and they did say no. So what happens between the south of the Vindhyas and north of the Vindhyas? What's the difference there?
The Vindhyas.
Same people.
Must be the Vindhyas. I think the north has been much more influenced by the Muslim Tehzeeb, the whole Lucknowi part of it, which came at certain time, and especially up 19th, 20th century, as the epitome of what courtesy and politeness is. Lucknow stands for that, so Muslim Tehzeeb stands for that. So that influence is much, much more on what is supposed to be courteous in the north, as opposed to what may be seen as discourteous in the south.
What is shared across the north and the south, however, is our concept of time. It's very flexible.
Well, many people would say this has really nothing to do with Indian. This is common to lots of civilizations, agricultural civilizations, where time is really morning, afternoon, and night. Others would say maybe it has to do with the kind of sun and the night, where the importance of time, where the days are short in the North Anglo-Saxon, where the days are short, every half an hour means something that you have to get things done. But where the days are long, like in Latin America, they're also mañana, which also means tomorrow, yesterday, which is also a little more flexible than the Anglo-Saxon.
It has to do with the latitude, where you're placed.
I'm giving you all kinds of possible explanations. Latitude, feudal, not a feudal, but an agricultural kind of a civilization.
So latitude, longitude, not lassitude.
Not lassitude, not yet. I mean, I wouldn't go so far as to say immediately lassitude. Because one must note that which are the important things for Indians. Their time is extremely, if for instance, Krishna's birth is at 1 minute past 12, you will see those celebrations start exact at 1 minute past 12. All religious celebrations start dot on time, which means we also have a different attitude towards what is important, to be where the time should be kept.
All right, I'm glad you touched upon religion. as somebody who wrote a landmark book, Shamans, Mystics and Doctors, tell me why this compelling Indian need, and of course it's a universal aspiration, this need to connect with something higher than ourselves. But why this compelling need, this eternal vacuum into which godmen, shamans and if I may say so, frauds fit in?
I'm glad you said it is a universal need. Why it has been so central to us, now this I think has really to do with the tradition, that the people who are looked upon as the highest kind of people have not been, in our sense, the so-called scientists or to do with the rational part of the mind, but the gurus and the mystics. They are the epitome of what is the highest. But the highest example of a human being in our civilization for a very, very long time has not been the scholar, the achiever, the scientist, the artist. Even artists have been looked down upon, but what you call the guru, the mystic or the shaman.
Sudhir Kakar offers us more luminous insights into ourselves, our lives, our culture. But that's after the break. Stay with us.
The Earth is a living system.
We have ignored the warning signals for long enough.
Every thinking action matters.
Earth Matters takes a closer look.
Catch up with Earth Matters every Sunday. 12 noon in English, 5:30 p.m. in Hindi. Only on DD News.
Welcome back to Center Stage and back to psychoanalyst Sudhir Kakar, who's in the business of interpreting us to ourselves. Let's talk about notions of masculinity and how they're constructed. Cleaning, cooking, housework, taking care of children, even holding your child. The Indian male seems to have very defined and definitive notions about it. And any departure from that abnormality is considered radical or a sign of progressive modernism. What do you ascribe that to?
The masculinity notion?
Notions of masculinity, fairly rigorous notions of masculinity, inflexible.
Not some parts of it, cooking and cleaning. Children part, that I wouldn't say. The children, playing with children, men in India do it, in fact, more often than, say, in any kind of, not the most progressive Anglo-Saxon, but Americans would do it. And this also, even the cooking and cleaning from all studies which you know is changing in middle class, emerging modern households. But the children part, playing with children, after a certain age. But otherwise you are right that the roles are defined. And again, these are roles which comes from all kind of agricultural civilizations.
Is the father a more remote, more intangible figure in the on the Indian firmament?
Yes, I think
He
the
is.
father is more intangible figure in the Indian firmament. He comes in, but much later in life, and comes in not alone, comes in with all the rest of the brothers, etc., which in the let's say in the traditional family with other ones. So he does not stand out as a single person. You do not remember your father, you do of course, but not as someone who stands out from a phalanx of elder males, the kakas, the chachas, etc.
The more intimate relationships
The more
somehow
intimate
are
relationship
with the other men rather than with the father.
No, they are with all the men where the father does not stand out, with whom
Right.
you have a very, very intimate relationship.
Right.
So the intimacy with the father is often a missing element.
Why?
This is the family system, I think.
Considering we prize the male offspring, the bond between father and son should be strongest, no? And should be flaunted and prized.
The father and son, the emotional bond is still strong, but it cannot be shown
It's
behaviorally.
subliminal always.
It is always subliminal. There's a great longing in both, the father and son, to be intimate. But the cultural norms are such that it should not be intimate. And that has a very good reason, because the extended family, which was very much our central one, it was very important for all the brothers to live together, that they should not show favor to anyone, their own son, that all the younger generation should be treated equally. That's why we do not have, in many Indian languages, in fact any word for cousins, everyone is brother. All the cousins are brothers. So if you started, small cells started forming in an extended family, then it was an absolute prescription or recipe for strife.
The Indian male, a weekly news magazine just did an article on how the Indian man sleeps like a baby, pun intended, on his delayed adulthood, his delayed coming into his own self. Does the Indian male take a longer time growing up in every sense of the word?
I think the Indian male is being bashed a lot, or has been bashed for a long time, and that is because the women have made much greater progress in the last 40, 50 years. Education for women has really opened it up. If there's any change which I would say has occurred in the Indian society in the last 40 years, it's in women. So in contrast to the change in women,
man looks Neanderthal.
the man looks somewhat kind of left behind. He has not changed because he's not had those pressures to change. I mean, why do you want to change? Nobody wants to change. The only one who wants to change welcomes change is a wet baby, no one else. Now, a man has always been, okay, you are my great son of the house, the pride of the joy of this. You are all perfect, so if you are perfect, you don't need to change. Women haven't had this privilege. Okay. And so the only problem with the Indian male has been pandered to a lot. All needs have been taken care for such a long time that it looks like he doesn't have any kind of autonomous driving kind of a force because he didn't need to.
As somebody who really midwifed an understanding, some perspective on the whole process of psychoanalysis in this country, or the difference between psychiatry, counseling, analysis. Do you feel Indians are by and large ready to accept counseling?
It has changed a great deal. I think in the last 10, 15 years, maybe I'd be hard put to give a frame, at least in the metropolitan cities, but people tell me also in mid-sized towns, there's a great change in people's ability or willingness to open up very intimate areas of their life, not even to psychiatrists, but even to kind of newspaper psychiatrists or counselors. And that is a big change.
I'm glad you touched on newspapers. What is your take on pop psychology, pop counseling that goes on in Saturday supplements? Ill-informed socialites in designer frocks, hyperventilating about stuff they know little or nothing about.
I'm not very much against it. I don't think things can really harm people that much. People have very strong psychological defenses. They take only what they feel they can absorb, achieve, and the rest they would reject. So otherwise, people give all kind of uninformed, and not only any counselors, and so-called clients or patients only take what they can use, and the rest they reject.
Sudhir Kakar, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.